It's for you to join us. Same words, you can do it.
Sometimes just banging on the table feels good too.
Thank you. What we sang now actually is called nigun. Nigun is a wordless melody that often serves as a prayer. For some people, a nigun is even a higher form of prayer because words sometimes just distort the meaning. I went to a lecture early this morning, and the lecturer said something that is true, and I just noticed it here. He said, we Jews are really good from here to here. We're not very good from here down. And he said it in a context, what he meant is, when we need to use our brains, we're good. We're smart, we're good learners, we're good. When we need to use our spirit, when it comes to spirituality, we suck. And it's true, and there are many reasons for that, and spirituality was always part of Judaism. He said something that I have never thought about. He said, we used to have the whole element of spirituality, of meditation, of singing together, like we just did. He said, but most of it disappeared in the Holocaust. Books survived, but all the things that you don't put in writings, like this melody that we all sang together, instead there were thousands, tens of thousands of examples of spiritual practices, Jewish practices, that disappeared. In the about 80s, 90s, Jews were looking for spirituality. Where did they find it? Buddhism. Right? That's the Jew, the Buddhist Jew. Many of you know 1/3 of the scholars in elite universities of Buddhism were born Jewish. Yes, because people were looking for something beyond the intellectual component in their own religion and didn't find it, not because it did not exist, but they didn't find it because we often emphasize the rational, the thinking, that part, as the lecturer was calling it. And I think he was absolutely right. And because he said it, I asked Cantor Marcy to lead us to start with a nigun, because when you sing together, and this is a simple song, it's actually called Elul nigun. Elul is the Hebrew month prior to Rosh Hashanah, where we are now. We already formed sort of a community, and it's not a prayer, it's not a heavy-duty service, but we do something that is not necessarily intellectual, and I'm happy that Marcy led us in it. But most of these nigunim, you don't need to have somebody like Marcy who can actually sing, because no, they meant for us to do it together. I read a book a long time ago. I don't remember the name of the book or anything from it, but there was a line. It was an American who lived in Europe, and the host in one of the parties said, "What you Americans never do is sing together. For you, a party is getting together, eat, drink, and that's it." And he said, it's very common in Europe. You get together and you sing. People just sit on wherever and they sing songs, which sound weird to us because we grew up here. Even in Israel, where I grew up, people like to sing together when they gather together. But it's so foreign to our culture here. We'll try to revive it a little bit with nigunim. What we are doing tonight, and we'll continue in the next 2 weeks, I used carefully the word workshops rather than classes. Because my hope that every time we meet together, you will take not just an inspiration, some ideas that, wow, it was really good, and then move on with your life as we normally do, but you'll have a tool, a way to use the month of Elul, the month before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, to make some important steps into make your life a little bit more meaningful. Let me continue with a quote. There was a great Reform rabbi by the name of Rabbi Alan Lew, died very young, in his 40s, from cancer. Didn't have an opportunity to do a lot, but he wrote a book, This is Real and You Are Completely Unprepared, The Days of Awe as a Journey of Transformation. It's not a big book. It's a very good book, though. And the quote that I'm going to use is what he writes about resolutions. How many of you have made tons of resolutions and very rarely actually followed through? Almost the big days in every gym is January 2nd. No, it's a fact. I didn't make it up, right? Because they love it. People sign up, pay tons of money, and by February 3rd, the gym goes back to its previous number of participants. And listen to his definition of resolutions. Resolutions, according to him, comes from a place of self-criticism and lack. They are about fixing a perceived flaw. I'm undisciplined, so I resolve to go to the gym. They rely on willpower, which is often brittle and runs out. It's so true. Right? You feel you're out of shape, so you don't like yourself, you criticize yourself, you have to fix it. And as somebody described willpower, it's like a muscle. Even if it's a big muscle, try to flex your muscle for more than 30 seconds. At the end of the day, I have to let go. Okay, so that's his idea of resolution, and I think it's quite true. So it's easy to make the resolution, but they come from a negative place. We try to fix something in us that we perceive to be broken. He said that's not what the Jewish high holidays are about at all. This is not the idea of tshuva. I'm using the Hebrew word deliberately because in English we say repentance, but it's not really repentance. And here he defines tshuva as setting an intention, comes from a place of wholeness. It is about returning to the best, most authentic version of ourselves that already exists within. The intention flows from what is life-giving and aligned with your soul, which is much deeper and more substantial source of motivation. So it's not that something is broken, Tshuva means something, we were good, or we are still good. There is so much goodness, so much positive in us. We have to identify it. We want to go to that place, and we need a plan to do it. Okay, so it does not come from brokenness, but it comes from identify what is good and positive, only that at that point we're not there yet. Okay, and this is a great idea of tshuva. Because when you think about repentance, you're saying, oh, I messed up and now I have to say I'm sorry or to have some penance or whatever it is. God is upset and oh, forgive us, God. No, tshuva, and even literally, comes from the Hebrew word shuv, is to return. It's not just to return to God. God, we won't sin anymore, we won't transgress, we are going to be great. No, it's to identify identify our potential, the good things in us that for different reasons that we will explore momentarily, we're just not there. We can't be there. We want to be there, but some things prevent us from being there. So this is the introduction. So we're going to look at it more as a workshop. Again, we'll get some tools of how to identify some of the things and a specific path in order to get to where we want to be. You all have your texts. The reason that I shared the binder with you is that you can bring it next time or the next 2 times if you can make it and collect different important texts. And each one of them will have some exercises, but at the end it will, oh, I guess I don't have one. Oh. I thought that I had my own copy. We'll have something that we can look at in the next month. I want us to look at the very first page. Oh, that's all you have. I have a lot of things here. It's a quote, it's a prayer from the Talmud that was written and recited daily by Rabbi Alexander or Alexandri. It sounds like a very Jewish name, Alexander, right? But a lot of the names of the rabbis, especially those who lived during the Roman regime, they took Roman names, and Alexander was Greek, but they liked it's a similar, or these cultures have a lot of similarities. So that's what he says. I'll just read it in Hebrew because it sounds so good, and then we'll read it in English. ריבונו של עולם, גלוי וידוע לפניך שרצוננו לעשות רצונך, ומי מעכב שאור שבעשיו ושעבוד מלכויות. יהיה רצון מלפניך שתצילנו מידם ונשוב לעשות חוקי רצונך בלבב שלם. Okay, so every day after he finished davening, after he finished his regular prayers, he meditated on these lines, which I find to be so beautiful. Master of the universe. Very common way to refer to God. Ribono shel olam. Those of you who speak Yiddish or heard Yiddish around you, Ribono shel olam is a way, some familiar, of referring to God. Master of the universe. You know that it is our will to do your will. I'll just read it first and then we will dissect it. What holds us back? The yeast in the dough and the subjugation of power. May it be your will to save us from the grip so we may return to your ways with a whole heart. Look at the very first line. Master of the universe, God, you know that it is our will to do your will. What do you learn only from this line? How does it look at human beings in general? Sorry? Positively. Sorry? We're in harmony. One of the prayers that we sing in the mornings, during Shabbat and daily mornings is Elohai Neshama. Do you know this prayer? Elohai Neshama, God, the Neshama is a soul that you have given me is pure. So the idea in our tradition is our soul is pure, our essence is pure, is good. Okay, we want to do your will, that's what we say. But when you read it, your will, who is your will? Whose will it is? Yes, and I think about it, because when these rabbis he lived about 1800 years ago, third century. Most of what they wrote had layers of meanings. So, I want to do your will. Can you say to your friend? Can you say to your parents? Can you say to your children? Yeah. Basically, we want to please the people we care about. We want them to be proud of us. We want to be helpful to them, don't we? We want them to have nachas, this good feeling. Only that we cannot always do it. But I think fundamentally, we want to do your will. Whether it's God, whether it's family member, friends, our community, most of us are not psychopaths. We want people to be happy. Now, I know that somebody is in need or want me to do something. How many of you say, oh, my biggest problem is saying no, right? I hear it all the time, I cannot say no. It's hard to say no because we are wired normally to do somebody's will until we feel that we are taken advantage of and we become upset, but that's a different kind of a workshop, right? But what Rabbi Alexander said here, yeah, you know, we want to do your will. We want to be good to everyone around us and definitely to you, God. We want you, God, to have nachas of us, to be proud of us. But we all know that that's not the case. That's not at least consistently the case. And he asked, what holds us back? So why can't we just live our life, always doing what God would expect us to do? And he gives two answers here. The yeast in the dough and the subjugation of power. What do you think the yeast in the dough is? Things that hold us together. Think more Passover. Things that make us rise. Believe it or not, but in the Jewish tradition, matzah, right, the unleavened food, is a pure form in contrast to bread. If I ask everyone around the table, most of you hate matzah and prefer a good loaf of bread, right? But the chametz, the leaven, the thing that causes the dough to rise, has been interpreted all the time as something negative. In what way it is negative? This seor, this the component that made dough rise. So one is haughtiness, right? Arrogance, right? You say full of air, full of hot air. What is a bread? What's the difference between a matzah and a bread? Matzah doesn't have air, but if you put the yeast into the dough, there are many bubbles of air. Okay, so that's why the rabbis looked at bread as haughtiness, as arrogance, versus the matzah. So that's, okay, what else? So you think about it positively, rising above. Here the idea is negative. The seor, the thing that causes us to rise. What else would you associate with rise, instead, not just our ego? What else can it be? The animal instincts, right? The difference between our rational self and our irrational, the id, we are thinking beings, but we also have the other part of our brain. The rabbis will call it yetzer hara, the evil inclination, but it doesn't have to be evil. It's just our lower senses. And we're not always in harmony. We don't always do what our brain says. We have feelings, we have desires, we have our weaknesses, okay? We don't always let the brain control us. Okay, so this rising often is understood as yetzer hara. It's a bad word. Even in Hebrew, it's evil inclination. But there's a beautiful story in the Talmud in which God asked people, I'll give you any gift you want. What do you want? And they said, we don't want to have the yetzer hara, the evil inclination, because it gets us in trouble all the time. I want to be good people. And God said, okay. So God took the yetzer hara, this evil inclination, like this demonic creature, and locked it. Next day, no eggs. There were no eggs. No babies were born. No animals were born. Because the same kind of instincts that we have, the same passion that we have, can go to bad places, but also it gives us life. Okay, so these much more basic instincts that the rabbis associate with rising. What else can it be? That's an interesting thing. I've never seen this interpretation, but you say, yeah, matzah is easy. Take water, flour, 18 minutes, oven, you have food. Bread takes much longer, but what the rabbis did attach to that is not the work, because I'm sure that these people never baked bread in their lives. They were men, and back then they didn't, but it's the time that takes for the bread. So they associated bread with laziness. Right? Because if you just want food, take flour, water, and you have the bread that you need. But for bread, to wait until it rises, and they didn't have the instant yeast that we have today and all the sophisticated stuff. It would take a long time. You just sit and look at so they associated it with laziness, and you're saying, yes, sometimes it's hard work that we don't need. Because you have tons of things to do, and sometimes some instant way of making food and feeding your children, that's what we need. Thank you. Yes? Oh, it's interesting. I love this smell. I really do. When they wrote about it, in case you're interested, they did not have yeast. They used more or less part of when you make beer. I don't know how many of you try to make beer, but let's think even of the foam. It's not exactly it. That's what they used. Okay, that's why in Egypt, when they dig, the archaeologists, there's always a brewery next to a bakery, because that's what they used in antiquity. Yeast is a privilege. Yeast is made by brewers. Oh, I did not know that. Thank you. I really did not. Oh, that's another thing, yes. And it goes back to what Shannon said, to wait for, even if you have the yeast, but to wait the 3 hours to make bread when you cannot afford 3 hours, either because you have tons of children or because, you have to work, you just don't have it. Yeah. It's the luxury of time that Today, many people don't have it. In antiquity, it was much, much worse. You just don't have. Thank you, that's really nice.
Maybe the yeast being an ingredient or a metaphor for holding us back. It's easy, set in one's ways, but maybe one of a goal, and at least for me, is to take the time to turn the yeast, whether it's into bread, but something more spiritual, more rewarding for me than just the yeast.
That's your interpretation, yes. Again, they saw it as a negative thing. Just the rising was a metaphor for, in that case, not always. Let's take the last one for that.
Yeast makes something unnatural. It takes it out of its natural.
Oh,
It rises it, makes it into something. It takes something natural or something, and it changes more.
it changes form, and it's a technology, basically, that you need. Right, that's just to have the basic carbs, you need water and flour, but to make it something more fancy. Thank you. So there are many ways to look at the yeast as an internal obstacle for us to do the will of God, either because we are arrogant, or because of time, because of laziness. I collected some different rabbis in the past 2,000 years. Some talked about bad habits that we have inside us that prevents us to do things, right? We all have these bad habits we hope we wouldn't, but we do. Inertia. Sometimes we just do things because we do things. That's how I do it, you know? And to change it, it's really hard. Other internal things, shame. I want to do things differently, but if I want to fix my ways, I first have to admit it, that I did something wrong. Sometimes I have to do it publicly. I have to ask for forgiveness. I have to, better not to, right? Much easier to keep holding it inside rather than going through the process of that. Let's continue with the other thing that holds us back. So we have the internal forces that we mentioned, many of them. The other thing is subjugation of powers. What do you think he thought about subjugation of powers? First one is the literal one. Sorry? What is compelled? Oh, compelled to do. All this pressure. Yes. If it's job, if it's taking care of people, if it's many things from the outside, all this pressure. But the most basic one that was understood, he lived under the control of the Romans, whom at that time were not really nice to the Jews. Okay, so as much as we want to do things, when we are being controlled by a not nice regime, there's so much we can do, right? If we're politically oppressed, socially oppressed, right? Any other ways to look at the subjugation of
That we all have strengths and powers, and if we don't use them, or if we allow ourselves not to use them, we don't compel ourselves to use our strengths, which is often the easiest thing to do, then that also cripples it.
So we have the strength, but we just, something prevents us from. Followers. Yeah, like social pressure or something like that, right? I really want to wear a tank top now and shorts to the class, but it, in this weather probably makes more sense, but I cannot do that. No, it's not something. Okay, but social pressure causes us to do a lot of things that we shouldn't do. Or we should do, but we just don't do because of social pressure. Okay, so what other external forces affects us to prevent us to do the will of God or the will of those we care about.
As my father would say, what will the neighbors think?
What would the neighbors think? I mean, not only your father, everyone. Or keeping up with the Johnsons, it's the same idea. And as much as we think that we are immune from it, it's really hard to be immune from it, right? But there are some more basic, like economic pressure. I really want to do many things, but I just cannot afford it, or I cannot afford the time because I have to work 14 hours just to feed my 3 children, or whatever it is, okay? I saw some hands, Lori. Health. Okay, health. You know, I'm homebound and there is so much I can do. Okay, so we can take it even to other directions. I was thinking about today. We have a lot of pressure from this 24-hour news, and yes, we're exposed to so much information, and it's not just the information. I don't know how many of you open the newspaper every day and already are super depressed before you even have the second sip of coffee. You just, right? And then try to be nice to your kids or anyone else. No, really, it's very hard. Okay, so let's read this prayer again and see how beautiful it is. And this was written 1800 years ago. So Master of the universe said, God, you know that it is our will to do your will. We want to be really good to everyone, to you, to other people, to the environment. We really want to do it. What holds us back? The yeast in the dough, the internal obstacles, our character, and the subjugation of powers. We're constantly under pressure from the inside out and from the outside in. And he says it in plural, right? If you pay attention, what is our will? Okay, it does not talk only about himself, because this is a condition of all human beings. And he continues, may it be your will to save us from their grip, so that we may return to your ways with a whole heart. So what is solution? He's praying to God. God, I need your help. I cannot do it alone. But, and this is a huge, important thing about Judaism, God is never doing our job. God is working with us if we are committed. But we don't pray to God, oh God, make me. No, God is not going to make you. But if you make a commitment to improve yourself or improve something and have a plan, that's when you also ask God and say, God, please help me. I need this extra strength. I cannot do it alone, which in many ways is a beautiful Jewish theology, that God is there not to fix things for you, not to do the work for you, but to be with you when you are committed. Okay? So this is the first text that I wanted to start with in order to set the framework for living with kavanah. Kavanah is normally translated as intention. Life that have a direction, intention, purpose. Okay? Let's go to our first activity. And I want you to admire the wheel here. I tried to put the Hebrew, it was just, I realized that I was spending more time on trying to fit the Hebrew into this chart than preparing for the class. So consider the past year on a scale of 0 to 10. How would you rate your sense of intention and fulfillment in each area? This is for your eyes only, okay? I'm not going to ask anyone to share unless someone. And these are the 8 things. Do you know the verse in the Mishnah, and we often sing it as a song, Al shlosha dvarim ha'olam omed, the world stands on 3 things. So the song that you know is Torah, Avodah, and Gmilut Chasadim. Torah, we'll look at Avodah, which means worship and other things, and Gmilut Chasadim is acts of loving kindness. This is the one that we sing, but the other list in the Mishnah, if you just keep reading, the other rabbi have 3 other. So when you collect all these 3 things, the 3-legged stools, actually, it's an 8-legged stool that is quite important in our tradition. And normally these are the things that when we think of improving ourselves, when we're thinking about adding intentional living, these are the things. So we start with Torah. The word Torah has so many meanings, but in this context, as in many others, it's learning. It's it's not lifelong, it's lifelong learning and intentional growth, okay? From the very beginning of the Torah, we are commanded to learn, to keep learning. Learning is not something you just do once. It's not you're having a bar mitzvah and you check it off, okay? And so it's commitment to learning. That's what we always have been doing. So this is the Torah. Should I continue? Let's go from to the right, because the next one is Avodah. No, thank you for this clarification. No, it's not study. Oh, thank you. Yes, so Steve asked if Torah, our lifelong learning, means only Torah. Absolutely not, and this is not my opinion. First thing that comes to mind is Maimonides, who lived almost 900 years ago, and he said that even if you want to appreciate God, really to worship God, you have to learn how the world works. You have to study physics, biology, astronomy. In his time, astrology was also a science. Okay, philosophy, you have to study everything. That's why these people, so he was a physician, and he was a scholar, and he was a legal scholar, and they studied almost everything because it's not just Torah. And that's why I said Torah has many meanings. So we look at the Torah scroll in the Ark, this is one thing. The meaning of Torah, the literal meaning of Torah is teachings. It's instructions, okay? It's not a specific book. It also can be a specific book, but yes, we need to learn as much as we can. Because, God gave us this world, and really to take advantage of the world, we have to understand it better. Avodah, the next one to the right, is meaningful work, service, prayer. It's fascinating that the word in Hebrew for worship or prayer is identical to the word of working. Okay, so avodah means having a job or meaningful work, and also service, and also prayer. Okay, prayer is serving God, but it's also serving ourselves in many different ways. The next one is chesed, acts of loving kindness and compassion. Tzedakah, justice, charity, and making the world more righteous. Tzedakah in Hebrew, in Jewish language, is not just charity, it's not just giving money to different causes. Literally, it means to do the right thing, okay? And it does not relate to how it makes you feel. if you do the right thing and you give money to support something, even if you hate giving money to anything, you still do it. It doesn't matter if you feel good about it or feel lousy about it. And the best way to look at it is taxes. We don't like normally to pay taxes. Some of us understand why we need, and we like our schools and the road and the whole thing. So intellectually, we understand why we need to pay taxes, but we don't like it. But we still do it, right? So that's the idea of tzedakah. It's not it coming from your heart. It's not that on April 15th, I feel, oh, I love my government so much, I'm going to write. No, you write a check or because you have to. So that's the idea of tzedakah in Judaism. That's the right thing to do. You have to do it. Now, if it makes you feel good, excellent. You're lucky. It is? It is a blessing in paying taxes. No, I guess it depends where you live, but our kids went to public schools and still go to public school and the whole thing. And yeah, this is the taxes that but when you write the check to the IRS, you're not happy normally. I don't believe what it takes so much. I worked so hard and they take such. But we did. Gvura, self-discipline, courage, physical and mental health. That's a big one. Mishpacha and chaverut, family and friends. Kehila, community. And menucha, rest, joy, and soulful rejuvenation, meaning Shabbat. Okay, Shabbat is a big deal. It's a lot of the things in the Torah you can find in other cultures. Most of the laws of the Torah can be found in the Code of Hammurabi from Babylonia and some Mesopotamia and some other things. You can find Shabbat, no. We invented Shabbat, the idea that we need to rest. It sounds so obvious to us today, but it was not. Maybe the privileged, going back to what he said, could think about resting in ancient times. But the regular people, including kids, you wake up in the morning, the sun rises, you work. The sun sets, you cannot work anymore, you go to bed hungry. Okay, so there was no concept of taking a full day off. So from the beginning, Judaism emphasized not just hardworking, but also meaningful rest. So now take a minute or so and give yourself grades of how much you put from 0 to 10 on each one of these intentions, of these concepts. Yes, it's important, but we'll keep it for a different discussion.
So are we giving ourselves two different, one for intentions and another one for fulfillment?
Yes, that's a good, yes. So you can say, let's say the Torah, I am at 7, but I really want to be at 9. One of the most important phrases that I learned in the past decade from a lecture is that all of us are always and will always be work in progress. We will never be perfect or even close to it. But he took it further. He said, let's say that on the scale of Torah, of learning, this year I was 4. Right, for different reasons, didn't learn, didn't read, didn't do much, okay? I should not have an intention next year to be 10. Because if you didn't go to the gym for 25 years, you're not going to look like Schwarzenegger or whatever, the image of a healthy person. It's not going to happen in a year, okay? So if I'm 4 at studying, what do I want to do next year? That's the tshuva. Maybe I want to do 5. I'll do 5. Maybe in 2 years, I'll be 6. But if I say I want to go from 4 to 10, the odds that I'll get to 10 are very slim. the odds that it will be like my gym membership, that after 3 weeks I stop going, are much greater, right? So he said, we're always work in progress and we're not focusing on 1 year. It's a lifelong commitment. So if eventually I want to be a person who studies a lot and I want my Torah to be a 10, maybe that's a 10-year task. Be realistic.
I'm having problems with the mishpacha, the family and friendship, like, what are the intentions? Because I'm going to a chesed and I think, oh, acts of loving kindness and compassion towards.
Oh, so I'll tell you. I mean, you can think about it, but for me, mishpacha is a big deal because my mishpacha, my family, lives in Israel, and one of my problems is that I know and I feel that I don't talk to them enough. I definitely do not visit enough. I visit once a year, but even I don't talk to them as much as I think I should. Now I have all the excuses in the world, 7 hours difference, time, the whole, but if I'm really honest, if that's my mission, my intention for this year, okay, instead of calling every Thursday, okay, that's what I do, because if I miss Thursday, I used to do Friday, but if I miss Friday, and it's really easy for me to miss Friday, I'm really, sorry, okay? But now I'm not saying, oh, I need to call to my parents more often. No, saying, you know what, I'm going to call my parents on Thursdays and Mondays, okay? So I'm not going to be 10. I'm not going to be like of some of these perfect children who calls their parents twice a day and they talk. It's not going to happen. It's just not the way we are, or I am, and you know, even if I feel I should, but if I go from once a week to twice a week, wow, right? That's what I mean by mishpacha, okay? Or even friends, you know? How often do you meet friends you really love? Oh, I cannot believe last time we spoke was 9 months ago. Or last time, sometimes I look at my text. Last time I texted the person was on his previous birthday, right? And I say, oh, that's not right. But I'm not going to say I'm going to call that person every day. It's not going to happen. But maybe I'm going to call every birthday and before Rosh Hashanah and before Passover or something like that. Wow. So I'm going from 2 to 5. Okay? And that's the idea here, to make it tangible and doable. Because, yeah, you can add another time to do it. But, so just look at it a little bit, and it just is an exercise for you. Is it really hot here? I did what I can, now we need to pray.
Yeah, I feel it. It's colder.
Oh, it's coming?
Maybe it's imagination.
Probably because in this room, sometimes you think that you feel like a helicopter is landing on the roof of the temple. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I'm looking at the watch, and as I normally do, I don't calculate the time correctly. I included here 5 texts that help us to set an intention. because you gave yourself these numbers, and did you choose one or two that you want to focus on this coming year? Don't choose 8. Don't choose 8. Choose one or two. And again, be humble and realistic at the same time. Don't go from 4 to 9. Go from 4 to 5 to 6. The worst thing, or one of the worst things, is self-loathing. When you go from 4 to 9, you are primed this self-loathing mechanism. You are going to feel really bad about yourself. So let's look at this text. My intention was to divide us to small groups and to learn this text and then to come back, but I don't think it's going to happen. We don't have the time for that. I do encourage you to look at the text afterwards, but I want to read a few of them and then to look at them together. So the first one is Maimonides. Okay, Maimonides, or Rabbi Moses, son of Maimon, is probably the most important Jewish scholar ever, and I'm not just saying it, okay? He lived about almost 900 years ago. He traveled a lot because of, when he lived, it was very difficult to be a Jew. So he was born in Spain, and then he tried to move to Israel, which didn't work out. Morocco didn't work out. Eventually, he settled in Egypt, and he was very successful. He was one of the personal physicians of the leader of Egypt, and in his spare time, he wrote dozens of books, from heavy-duty philosophy, the guide to the perplexed, to the halachic book, the Jewish law, Mishneh Torah. He wrote medical books that people still refer to, I heard. He just did everything because these people just, some had the brains and the time, I don't know, to do everything. And of course, he was the rabbi of his community. So when I complain that I cannot do things because I'm so busy, just remind me of what he did. Yes, Jim?
City of Cordova in Spain is very happy to claim this.
In Cordova, yes. Yes, they claim him, but they kicked him out. It brings Jewish tourists there. Yes, I saw his place in Cordova. That's a beautiful question, Deb. Thank you. He wrote in Hebrew and Arabic. So Mishneh Torah, which is 14 volumes of Jewish law, he wrote in Hebrew, and he tried to write it in the style of the Mishnah that was written about 600 years before him, and that's Hebrew. The Mishneh Torah is a philosophical book he wrote in Arabic, because that was the language of the people around him. And today, back then, the major philosophers were Arabs, not only where he lived. So he learned a lot of philosophy, Greek philosophy, not from the source. He didn't read Plato and Aristotle in Greek. He read the Arabic translations. So he wrote it in Arabic, but again, I can never give a simple answer. But he wrote Arabic using Hebrew letters. So when you open the original guide to the Perplex, you think, oh, it's Hebrew. No, it's not. Okay? Jews often wrote different language using the Hebrew alphabet. That's why I look at the Kaddish, you think it's Hebrew, it's Aramaic. The Talmud is written, the Babylonian Talmud, written mostly in Aramaic, but always Hebrew letters. Okay, that was the style. Yeah, Rashi, who lived more or less around the time of Maimonides lived in France, in Champagne. He was a vintner. We can bring him to our program. October, what's the date? The wine tasting, yeah. Yes. But he wrote French words with Hebrew letter. Okay, long answer to a question. So Maimonides. So among the many laws that he wrote is the laws of Teshuvah, and I will read it just because of the friends on Zoom. What is a complete Teshuvah? This is a person who confronts the same situation in which they sinned when they have the potential to commit it again, and they abstain and do not perform it because of their teshuvah alone and not from fear or lack of strength. Who wants to explain it? So he gives us before that all the stages of teshuvah. First of all, you need to recognize that you did something bad, because many of us rationalize everything. I didn't do it, or that was not my fault, blah. But you go through all the process, and he said, but how do you know that you're successful? And this is the answer. Who wants to summarize it in simple words? How do you know that when your teshuvah is complete? Yeah. Even if you're tempted to steal the donut again, okay? That's another thing that the rabbis emphasize. You know, it's perfectly fine and even better to say, I'm still tempted to do it. They said, don't say that you don't eat pig because you hate pigs. Because if you don't like pigs, what's the big deal to keep kosher? Say, I love pigs, but because God told me not to eat pigs, I don't eat pigs. Then it's a challenge. Okay, so I don't like donuts. I never liked donuts, so it's no big deal for me not to steal a donut. But if I really love donut, and there's a store that makes it really easy to steal donuts, but one day I said, you know what, that's not really the way to live, and stealing food. But then the store is empty and the security cameras don't work, and you know that all the police force is on strike. She said, yeah, I'm dying to have this donut. I don't have money to buy the donut, but I'm not going to do it. That's, you know, that you completed your tshuva, okay? When you have a good possibility to repeat it and you just don't, okay? So this is one of them, and I want to go to the last one, if you don't mind. It's something that we use often, and we even teach a song to the religious school, text number 5. לא עליך המלאכה לגמור, ולא אתה בן חורין להיפטר ממנה. It is not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you at liberty to neglect it. And there are several ways to interpret it. So here I included few questions that help us to go deeper into this quote. So what is the core message of this text about how to live a better life?
I think it's that we're all a work in progress, and that we just do your best to get better every day. Maybe not physical work, but the work of yourself.
You'll never be perfect, you're right. I'll never be perfect. Does that mean that I should give up and not try to do anything? No, I'll never be perfect. I can be better than I am today. Almost at anything I can imagine, I can be better. I'll never be perfect. How many of us avoid doing things because we know we cannot do it perfectly, or at least extremely well? Yeah, I was never good at it. I'm not even going to try. Now, it is not for you to finish, to complete, to perfect. Who can perfect things? God. By definition, we're not gods. So for us, you know, we still have to do it. Other ways to look at it for our life.
There are problems in the
Right, and this is really, and there are songs about it because this is the slogan of Tikkun Olam, of social action, right? Because look at the world, it sucks. There's so many problems. We're not going to end slavery, and we're not going to end hunger in the world and the environmental problems, and just start a list. It's not going to happen. So what are we doing? Are we just giving up? Or we say, okay, I'll do the best I can. At least I'll do one of my favorite stories ever. And I thought it was a Jewish story, and then I saw it everywhere. So it's about a boy who is walking on the beach, and he finds this starfish. And he takes them, and they're all on the shore, and they're dying. And he takes one of them and throws back to the ocean. Takes another, throw it back to the ocean. And then an older gentleman looked at him and said, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. There are tens of thousands of them. What matter does it make? And he takes a starfish, throw it back to the ocean. It matters to this one. Okay, so yes, even the little bit we do does make a difference. We're not going to solve these problems, but it's still our obligation to do what we can. Okay, so this became one of the slogans of Tikkun Olam. What else? How else we can look at it?
That you're forgiven for not being able to do it.
You are forgiven a priori, you may, yes. That,
You are not released from trying, but you're also not always trying to do it.
right. I just know that there are things that I wish I was smarter when let's say when I went to college or wherever. There are things I didn't want to try, like classes that I considered, oh, too hard, I'll get a bad grade, and I didn't take them, right? But if you get the permission, yeah, you can get a C in this class, or you just pass fail in this class. I probably would have taken many more classes because I have a permission to be mediocre in some things. This is great, right? But we think, oh, if I get an A minus in something, I'm done. That's, by the way, our children's mindset these days, right? An A minus, they cry and their life is over at 15. But no, that's a tragedy. It really is. And really, I didn't take classes that I thought were so interesting because I didn't want to get a B or God forbid or something like that.
There's also the story of the old man planting the tree,
Oh,
and the little boy says, well, you're never going to see any apples from that tree. And he said, it'll be for someone else. And someone planted an apple tree for me.
right. Right, so why are you planting a tree that will yield fruit in 70 years when you're 80? You're not going to eat this fruit. But yes, somebody did it for me, and I continue what they did. And I'm doing it for the next generation. Any other comment? And the last thing I'll say about it is that to finish the work is a collective effort. None of us can really do everything. But if all of us do our part, even if you won't complete the task, we will improve things significantly. Okay, so it's not just me, it's a collective effort. So I really encourage you to look at the rest of the texts. They are very interesting, and do them with the 4 questions that And here, I'm going to give you several minutes, again, to work with yourself, because the last page is what I want you to take with you. And I want you to really visit it in the next month or maybe even the next year. So let's look at it. So true change begins with a single intentional step. Use this space to transform your reflection into a concrete commitment. So what is your area of focus this year? Go back to the will and choose one or two. Is it going to be family? Is it going to be learning? Is it going to be self-improvement, health? Just choose one or even two. And then in number two, you want to be really honest with yourself. Okay, because you're the only one who is going to look at it. Why? Not because somebody from outside thinks that you need to do it, but why I feel that this year this should be my task. Might be something that for others it's not really important. But for some reason for you it's the most important thing. Okay, number three is really crucial. And again, that's the difference between what I said before, the resolution and the intention, the commitment. How am I going to do it? Okay, so this is a good example that I use because I forgot that that's the example. But yeah, that's true. I want to talk to my brother more often. Instead of just keep saying I need to talk to my brother more often, I put something on the calendar. And actually I did it with my other brother. We started to put Zoom calls when it's Thursday at 3:15 works for me, and Israel time it's when he puts the kids to bed, and it's we do a Zoom call and it's on the calendar. And normally when we have something on the calendar, we do it most of the time, right? But just to say, oh, I need to talk more to my family in Israel, no, it's not going to work. Concrete. And you can just start now and then come up with a better plan. And the rabbis would tell us not just that, what's the first step? Okay? It's not that, after the holidays, because now I'm so busy, I'll call my brother because I have no time. No, it's not working. Because if it's my intention right now, I'll find the time next week or this Sunday or whenever it is, I'm going to make this call. Not when I'll have time. One time, one high holiday, I spoke about, so often our life is just waiting. We just wait for something, right? We go to the doctor and we wait. We wait to graduate. We wait now for us, for the high holidays to be over, for that, we just wait and wait for, and when are we actually doing things? So no, not waiting. Put something concrete with the time. And what really makes it Jewish here is the accountability using people of your community. You don't keep it to yourself because it's very easy not to do things that are only in your mind. But if you tell it to other people, if you make the commitment known to at least one person, you are much, much more likely to keep it. The first marathon book I've read, I read many, but the first one, like Marathon for Dummies, they said, find a date, sign up, and tell people you're doing it. And it's so true. Because when you tell people you're doing it, you're committed, sorry? Accountability. And this is the good aspect of peer pressure. or some, you said you would do it. And you may not to, but it's much harder not to. And here we're talking about positive things. So let other people know, yes, this is my commitment. Okay? So, and look at it, visit this page. That's why you have your blue binders. So let me just ask if anyone wants to say something, and then we'll conclude with.
So, we were talking in the beginning about tzedakah and not really taxes, giving it a, and so let's say your intention is to give $1,000, but you know what, I really don't want to do that. Is it a reasonable thing to take smaller chunks and say, okay, that this one is $100? Or are you supposed to say, no, I know what the need is $1,000.
It's funny that, so Audrey was thinking, or you want to give $1,000, but it hurts, right? And I'm not ready, so should I give 100? And it's still.
Should you make it smaller so you feel good about it and then you work up to it, or should you just?
So there was a wisdom in fundraising, and some of you worked and still working in that field. You ask people to give until it hurts. You heard that expression? Okay, especially for big campaigns, right? Don't give me $100 when we try to raise $10 million if you have the means, right? So you have to feel it when you write the check, not just something symbolic that would not make, and now they're talking about until you truly feel that it's meaningful. It doesn't have to hurt because now we don't like to be negative, but it has to be meaningful. So if you feel like the right number is 1,000, but it hurts too much, do it in 10 months at least. So make it a little bit easier, but I think keep with the $1,000 if you can. You're not going to prevent food from your children because you do that. But let's assume that you can do the $1,000. You just don't want to. But that's when it's meaningful. It's easy to give $1,000 when it means nothing. Or if you really want to, you really believe in the cause, it's easy to write this check. Isabel, you wanted to?
Yes, you talked about collective. Tzedakah could be really fun, because you can't do that $1,000 on your own. You list your friends, and you put your pool your money, and make a big gift. And that way tzedakah could be more meaningful because it's larger, and you take a piece of yourself and you share it with the people you care about to try to do something meaningful.
So tzedakah can be, you said, fun, or it can be a communal thing, and it's true. And they found in the research of fundraising is that when you do it collectively, when a group of people get together in order to support a project, they get more. You know what was the first thing that God told the people of Israel after they left Egypt? Build a tabernacle. How do you build a tabernacle? What do you need? You need a capital campaign first. So seriously, that's exactly what happened. They were just slaves. They have a little tchotchkes that and Moses went to them and said, give whatever you can because we need to. And they happily gave because they built something together. Okay? So that's a good point. Let me just conclude here. The work, so I started with Rabbi Alan Lew's book, and I'm going to conclude. The work of Teshuvah is intentional. The work of Teshuvah and intentional living is not a one-time event. It is the practice of a lifetime. And what you have here, especially the third piece of paper that you're here, is not a contract, it's a roadmap. It's a reminder of the person you are intended to be in 5786 the next year. And I want to conclude with the following prayer. Dear God, may the coming year be one of clarity, intention, and blessing. May we all have the strength to not only be inspired, but to turn that inspiration into a reality that brings more light to ourselves, our families, our community, and our world. Amen. Thank you. Please join me next week for the second. I don't remember what's next week, but it will be, I'll try to make it